in the middle of the night. I got into the emergency room for a late night snack. The doctor is handsome. I endure colic and become nymphomaniac. When the other party took off his mask, what was revealed was the face of his ex-boyfriend. He backhanded me to the hospital bed, smiling but not smiling. Nicola Suri, when you went around advertising that I was dead, did you think it would fall into my hands? I was startled and threw up in his arms. Lie down. Lift up your clothes. In the emergency room, I crawled onto the hospital bed, curled up and pulled up my t-shirt, revealing a round and shapely belly. The handsome doctor stared at him for a long time, and his tone was a little strange. What did you eat that night? It's just a little late night snack. Is that a little bit? He glanced at my stomach. I'm weak and honest. Just black chicken soup, ice cream, and 3 caddies of spicy crayfish. The more he said, the quieter his voice became. The handsome doctor glanced at me coldly. It's really good, and I'm not afraid of dying. Me. Are doctors so blunt these days? Overeating causes acute gastroenteritis, abdominal pain and mild dehydration. As he spoke, he pressed his hand against my tumbling stomach. The effect is like countless fruit men jumping on my stomach. My heart was pounding. Doctor, you look so handsome in a white coat. It should be hard to work a night shift alone. Right. Doctor, what's your last name? Under my tireless harassment, the handsome guy finally reacted. He glanced down at me. My name is Maria. Maria. This surname, when you hear it, it's a handsome guy. If I don't want to be ashamed, I'll open my mouth. The handsome doctor's voice is so good, clear and a little magnetic, a little sultry. It's just inexplicably a little familiar. Darnell. Maria raised her eyebrows slightly, playing with taste. Nicola Suri, that's what you said back then. We know, I blurted out. It shouldn't be. This kind of handsome is full of superlative. If I Nicola Suri have ever seen, how willing to forget. I was so excited that I didn't even pay attention to the growing colic. Handsome, what's your full name? Darnell. Maria looked at me steadily. For a long time, Darnell. Maria. I saw him slowly take off his mask, revealing a familiar and handsome cold face. Darnell. Maria. I was so scared that I almost rolled out of my hospital bed. His eyes widened and he looked in horror at the man in the white coat in front of him. My college ex-boyfriend. How is he here? My first instinct was to run away, but before I could take a step, I was pressed to the bed. Darnell. Maria pinned me down with one hand, her eyes digging down the knife. Nicola Suri, when you went around advertising that I was dead, did you think it would fall into my hands? I was stupefied. Will he pick up the scalpel next to him, and stab me in strings? Darnell. Maria, calm down *1 I opened my mouth to save my life, but my mouth didn't keep up for a while. But at this time, my throat and eyes suddenly itched a little. Gasp. I spat on Darnell. Maria's white coat with a wow. It's full of undigested crayfish. This vomiting lasted for nearly half a minute. I vomited comfortably. People are running out. Nicola Suri. Darnell. Maria looked at me, as if she was going to eat her life alive. Are you going to finish it yourself? Or do you want me to give you a ride? That's when I remembered that Darnell. Maria had a habit of cleanliness. Spitting on him is equivalent to jumping on the grave. Hello Nicola Suri. I looked away and pinched my nose. Why don't you deal with it first? You're like a sauerkraut bucket now. In sight. Darnell. Maria's face darkened again. Don't worry. I, Nicola Suri, am not such an irresponsible person. I pledge it. The smell was too great. A mouthful, and another burst of retching. Darnell. Maria's fists hardened, and with a black face, she went to the small room, where she was resting. The moment I heard the door close, I swooped up from the hospital bed, and grabbed my backpack in a sprint. It's a fool not to run at the moment. The moment I walked out of the hospital building, I was in such a good mood, that I sang a hot song on the internet. A qualified ex-boyfriend should be buried in the soil. A week later, I came to the hospital again. Well, the scar forgot the pain. The previous acute gastroenteritis was just 2 days ago, and I gnawed on the spicy duck head for a few days. Hemorrhoids. In order to avoid meeting Darnell. Maria again, I changed hospitals this time. Nicola Suri. No. 135. Please go to proctology. No. 1. Hearing the announcement, I pouted my ass and sprinted 10 meters into the consultation room. Doctor, you help. I have hemorrhoids, and my butt hurts so much. The doctor behind the computer was immersed in typing, heard the voice, and slowly raised his head. When I saw the face on the other side, I was so scared that I almost lost my breath. Darnell Maria. My resentful ex-boyfriend. I was dumbfounded. His legs were so weak that he almost fell to his knees. Patient Nicola Suri was admitted to the hospital for examination and treatment due to unbearable itching of hemorrhoids. Darnell Maria glanced at the report I handed in and said in a playful tone, "Eating too much spicy stuff again. It is worthy of the enemy, and the weaknesses are well understood." I felt my face burn. "You're not a doctor at this hospital." "Why?" "Oh, I've been asked to come here." Darnell Maria shuffled and asked me. Surprised fart. I suddenly remembered the stove at home and forgot to turn off the fire, and said goodbye. I backhanded the jerknob, and a fluttering sound came from behind. "Today is Friday. The registration of other hospitals is full, and the anorectal department is not open on weekends. Do you plan to stay up for 2 more days with a rotten ass?" I was stunned, covered my ass and retorted, "That can't fall into your hands. New hatred and old hatred are counted together, and a small life will be lost. I'm a doctor, and my job is to save lives." Darnell Maria lifted her glasses and glanced at me. Unlike some villains who curse behind their backs, yin and yang weird again. I glared hatefully, remembering how unbearable I had been last night, and gritted my teeth and lay on the examination table. "Take your pants off." Darnell Maria brushed the curtain shut, and changed her hands into gloves. I blushed, closed my eyes, gritted my teeth, and pulled down. The next moment, I shuddered, and the next second, my ass was padded. "Take it easy." Looking up, Darnell Maria glanced at me. "I did everything I needed to do back then. Where haven't I seen you all over you?" The difficult internal inspection link is finally over. I breathed a sigh of relief and turned to load the machine gun into my mouth. "Thank you, Darnell Maria. I'll go. Goodbye now, I'm done." "Stop." Behind him was Darnell Maria's voice. I pretended not to hear. "Wouldn't it be shameless to let me stop? Your press card is with me." I jerked my head back and saw Darnell Maria swaying a small brown notebook in her hand. "On the cover is me from college, smiling silly." "Give it back." I reached for it, but it was easily blocked by the man. "I want this." "I can, but I have the conditions." I saw Darnell Maria's gaze pause on me. "I want you. What do you daydream about when you break up?" "Impossible." I sneered and refused. The corners of Darnell Maria's mouth fell, and the topic suddenly changed. "I want you to apologize to me in the circle of friends and clarify the original untruth. It's that simple." "Yes." I was just about to say yes when Darnell Maria looked at me fixedly, word by word. "No settings, no disclosure. Nicola Suri, can you do that?" "Can I do it?" "I can't." So I slammed the door with my backhand and ran out. Before leaving, I didn't forget to show off my beautiful middle finger. Darnell Maria's big wrongdoer, obviously trying to trick me. I rode the little electric donkey and cursed, all the way, thinking that Darnell Maria was quite delusional. At the beginning, it was the bastard who deceived first. I fed the dog sincerely, and half a year ago I was angry, and announced to the circle of friends, which made everyone know, I was in the same university as him, and we had overlapping contacts, and soon someone came to me, and asked me what was going on. Angry in my head, I replied, "Darnell Maria hangs." Until now, someone is still on my blacklist. How can I publicly apologize in the circle of friends? Obviously, he was sorry for me first. I don't want to see that bastard Darnell Maria again in my life. I was so angry that I gnawed on a spicy rabbit head again, and squatted on the toilet at night to put on a pain mask. I didn't expect God to be so short-sighted. As soon as he finished swearing, he was in the conference room of the newspaper office, and saw a great injustice. Darnell Maria wears a full black suit, with a white shirt with a slightly open neckline. Tall and cold, it looks like a male god. If it weren't for this good skin, I wouldn't have gotten into the trap. Not full hat is Darnell Maria doing here? Complain. I lowered my head and blended into the crowd, but I didn't think that my bald boss would give me a thunderbolt directly. Nicola Suri, I heard Darnell Maria say you're an alumnus, so you'll be in charge of his interviews. Passing through the crowd, I saw Darnell Maria's gaze fall straight on me. The corners of his lips pursed slightly, curled slightly. Nicola Suri, I hope we enjoy working together. But the look in his eyes said, come and take your dog's life. I was eager to run away, but my bald boss shouted, Nicola Suri, you work hard, and the right thing is just around the corner. It was big and round, but it was pinched and asked for the door, and I could only grit my teeth. In the blink of an eye, it was just me and my resentful ex-boyfriend in the conference room. You did it on purpose. I stood diagonally farthest from Darnell Maria and sneered. Yes. Darnell Maria looked at me with interest. You slandered me and spit on me. Nicola Suri, shouldn't I take revenge on you? A scheming scumbag. I rolled my eyes and pulled out my voice recorder. Let's get to work. Unexpectedly, Darnell Maria got up directly. Not today. I have to go on a business trip in the afternoon, so I don't have time. So you have a chicken feather? You're a fool. I laughed angrily on the spot. Don't say it's doing this. It's just to block me. If you want to open it, your weight isn't that heavy. Darnell Maria glanced at me, and with a sudden movement of her right hand, something fell out of his cuff and flew straight to my head. I know that this guy is plotting. I ducked in a swoop, and the hidden weapon landed at my feet, and I fixed my eyes to see. Anal tie cream. It. Hemorrhoid medicine. Why did he send me ointment? Definitely not well intentioned. This ointment is fine twice a day for a week. Darnell Maria walked up to her, picked up the ointment, and forced it into my hand. The slightly cool fingertips touched the palm of the hand, and it is a little itchy. I shook my body and withdrew my hand. No, no, no. Darnell Maria's face was ugly. You want your ass to continue to bloom. Me. The atmosphere became a little awkward, considering that it was a big job at stake. I finally couldn't hold back and asked, when will you be interviewed? Darnell Maria raised an eyebrow. I'm on a tight schedule. That's not good. It depends on my mood. I really want to hit someone. When I learned that Darnell Maria, who had returned from a business trip, was on duty today, I rushed to the hospital, mixed in the pile of patients, trying to inquire about the scandal of the dogman. But, I really want to ask Darnell Maria to have dinner at night. I heard that he is single, and the sisters rushed together. Darnell Maria is gentle every time she takes my blood pressure as an old woman. If she doesn't have a daughter, she happens to have multiple sons-in-law. Darnell Maria is so good looking. Mom, I'm going to be Darnell Maria's little bride in the future. Darnell Maria is afraid that she is not the reincarnation of Nandaji. How can women from 80 to 8 say that they are all good? You've all been fooled by Darnell Maria. I listened very unpleasantly, and my turban covered my face and lowered my voice. He's not a thing at all. Darnell Maria looks like a dog, and he cheats on the feelings of an ignorant girl behind his back. That's right, that ignorant girl is me. Spoil the minds of others and ridicule them wantonly. He is merry by nature, touching flowers and grass, seeing different ideas, stepping on end boats. Dirty water was splashed in a basin, and I was talking about it with great energy, when I suddenly noticed that shadows were sprinkled in front of me. Someone stood in front of me. I looked up and was dumbfounded. This patient. You're in the wrong place. Turn right and go upstairs to the brain department. Darnell Maria stood in front of me with a blank face, her tone cold as a knife. Forget it, it's hopeless. Just bury it on the ground. What is it like to be caught by the owner for saying bad things in public? Answer, it's very socially dead. I'm numb. When he reacted, he was dragged into the office by Darnell Maria. His dark eyes stared at me. I sneered and changed the subject. Well, Darnell Maria, I'm here to interview you. Are you free? Need an interview? Darnell Maria sneered. I see. What you just said is quite energetic, and you know everything about me. I swallowed. The dog man is yin and yang again. Darnell Maria interrupted me with a shake of her hand. Wait, I still have a few patients to see. Me. He ignored me. I had no choice but to hold my backpack and find a quiet corner to squint. I fell asleep without paying attention. I don't know how long it took. I yawned lazily and opened my eyes, only to find that it was dark outside. With a turn of the head, Darnell Maria is gone. That guy ran away. I grabbed my stuff and ran out, and just around a corner, I found Darnell Maria crouched on the ground. Something was wrong with his face. I was angry and didn't think much of it. Darnell Maria, you're sick. Don't you know I'm waiting for you? Nicola Suri, what the hell is your name? He gritted his teeth and looked up, his face horribly pale. I panicked. Why, what's wrong with you? Stomach pain. He got up, and the pain was so bad that he didn't get up at once. I reflexively held him up, muttered in a low voice, if you don't eat well, the next time we meet will be the morning hall. You care about me. Darnell Maria smiled meaningfully. I blew up in an instant, jumping 3 feet high, laughing to death. I rolled my eyes and put on a grimace. I care about when you're going to die. Darnell Maria's face sank, her gums snapping. Come here, send me back. I walked up to him with more than my head on my feet. When I reacted, I took 3 steps back. Nicola Suri, your brain pumping. This guy is the scumbag ex-boyfriend. No, I'll have to wait later. Back to the company. Unexpectedly, Darnell Maria grabbed my coat and threatened, don't send it. Okay, you go, but I need to think about the interview later. I remember, some people haven't turned around yet. The groove, dare to threaten your aunt. I was so angry that I was about to give Darnell Maria a kick, but I didn't expect the man to fall straight at my feet with a pale face. As a last resort, I had to pick up Darnell Maria, and take it back to his house, place the person in bed. I went to the kitchen and looked at the smoking casserole, secretly gave himself a thumbs up. What a talent. Most of Darnell Maria's stomach aches are taken care of by me. Before we broke up, I lived with him for a while, and that's where I lived. Looking around, I found it all familiar. It doesn't seem to have changed, and it seems to have changed. When the casserole porridge was ready, I carried it into the bedroom, and the person on the bed woke up. Get up and drink the porridge, I commanded dryly. Darnell Maria was leaning back on the bed, her face still a little pale, and she looked weak. I relented and set up a small table for him. It's just that this dog man doesn't appreciate it, and he dares to dislike my cooking skills. He took a sip. What you've cooked is still as bad as ever. This girl is angry now. Yes, I was poisoned. It's just for you. Like it. It's so special to me. So Nicola Suri, you still miss me, don't you? Darnell Maria tilted her head lazily and looked at me. His facial features are delicate and 3-dimensional, and his eyes are dark and deep, and I was accidentally hooked. When I came back to my senses, this thing had his hands around his chest, a strategizing posture. I pressed the deer in my heart, bluffing his face and waving his fists. Talk nonsense again. Blow your head out. Well, I'm afraid I won't be able to finish the interview. Darnell Maria took a rueful sip of porridge. I'll give your leader a call. Nicola Suri, when you were living together, why didn't you do it first? Leave him alive here. In order to turn positive, I had to put on a smirk. Don't you eat slowly, I'll brush the pot. If we stay any longer, either Darnell Maria will die, or I will kill him. Bang! I slammed on the bedroom door in a rage, and as soon as I got back to the living room, the doorbell rang. I didn't think much about it. I just pulled the door open, and then I was stunned. There was a woman standing outside the door. She was wearing a little white dress. Her long hair was fluttering, pure and gentle. I know her, Darnell Maria's fiancé. For some reason, an indescribable tingling sensation kept coming from my heart. The streets in the middle of the night are filled with the smell of snail powder. I held the big bowl and shook it vigorously. Earlier, at the door of Darnell Maria, I took off my apron and left without saying a word. People's fiancés are here. Is it possible to stay there as a wallflower? Nicola Suri, people can be miserable, but they can't be faceless. Darnell Maria and I are alumni of the same college class. He is a medical student, and I am a journalist. In that year's military training in the hot sun, I caught a glimpse of that handsome face, and I fell in love at first sight. The 18-year-old girl's heart pounded. Back then, I was also very brave, and I made a real appearance on the confession wall, sprinkling 3,000 love letters. At first glance, it has the connotation of a news person. It took me more than 2 years to pluck this Cowlin flower, but who knows, after a year of sweetness, I found that this dog man TMs even has a fiancé. Eating in a bowl and looking at the pot. Nicola Suri. Have been, little 3. Little girl, are you alright? Seeing my grinning teeth, the aunt who sold snail noodles was shocked on the spot. No, it's a little hot. I shook my head and picked up the bowl and snorted hurriedly. I don't want people to see the embarrassment. Not surprisingly, during the morning meeting on Monday, I was scolded bloody. It's been so long since you got the report out. Nicola Suri, what are you going to eat? Leaving the office of my bald boss, I touched the wetness on my face, picked up the dick, and went to the hospital again. Familiar places, people who don't want to be familiar. But when I looked through the information, I saw that there was no Darnell Maria on it. Darnell Maria, he's not coming to work today. He's on leave. Leave. Isn't the stomach problem cured yet? When I got to the door of the apartment, I hesitated, not knowing whether to go in or not. The interview is definitely an interview, and the job of eating must not be lost. But if her fiancé is also 3 people in a room, the picture was too beautiful to imagine. Darnell Maria, you scumbag, you stinking scumbag. I didn't hold back and greeted Darnell Maria again. It's all his fault. He was working passionately when there was a click behind him, and the door opened. Darnell Maria stood in the doorway, looking at me with a cold look in her eyes. Nicola Suri, that's what you ask for on weekdays. No wonder it hasn't turned positive yet. I screamed in horror. My feet that had been squatting for a long time were numb, and my whole person fell forward uncontrollably. In the afterglow, I saw that Darnell Maria seemed to be a little flustered, reached out and grabbed me, but I couldn't control the force, and both of them fell on the carpet inside the door. Hiss, I subconsciously shouted. Darnell Maria's hand resting on the back of my head. I looked up, and Darnell Maria was quietly watching me, a spray of slightly hot breath falling. Something was wrong with the atmosphere. I panicked and smashed my fist into his heart. You get up and crush me. Darnell Maria was caught off guard, leaning down, her cold lips brushing my cheeks inadvertently. We were both stunned. Why, what did you do? My heart beats like a drum. Darnell Maria's mouth was stiffened, and I could see the tips of his ears quietly reddening. What are you pretending to be? It's not that you haven't kissed. He got up and cleared his throat. Aren't you going to do an interview? I only have 10 minutes. Count you ruthless? Time is limited, so I just started the inquiry mode. Professional journalist literacy. There is. He leaned back and leaned lazily on the couch. Don't you know these questions? I remember when you pursued me passionately. You almost didn't pick up your underwear. Right. I didn't pick it up at first, but I picked it up later. But what did this old man do in the past? Does he want to hug left and right? Rub. This damn scumbag. Darnell Maria, I'm working. Please be serious. I had a cold face. Nicola Suri is dead. Now in front of you is the Avenger Nicola Suri. Darnell Maria smiled, and cooperated for the first time. I was amazed for a moment, and the pen in my hand didn't forget to fly wildly. Soon, the inquiry session came to an end. Finally, I also asked Darnell Maria a more personal topic. You are so young and promising, and you have a love experience like, oh, I panicked. Which son of a bitch put this question in the interview transcript? I passed the first round of screening. Wait, does someone think I'm trying to get away with it? I was filled with excitement when I saw the man across from me smiling at me, looking at each other in mid-air. I was a little weak. One didn't sit still, and I almost fell off the bench. Darnell Maria leaned over and teased. So you're so curious about my love story? No. Reject personal slander. I only have one relationship, which happened in college, and it was my first love. Darnell Maria raised an eyebrow and stared at me, her tone quiet. It's a pity that I met someone who was unladylike and ran into a scumbag. Why don't Nicola Suri help me? How can I get justice from that unconscionable person? The wicked sue first, and it's Darnell Maria, the bastard. Darnell Maria, don't you want to hit a rake? I slammed the table up. You did the dirty things yourself. You know in your heart, I think Nicola Suri, has lived for more than 20 years, and has always been frank. The ugly thing of being, little 3, is a shame that you can't forget for a lifetime. How can you say it? I was so angry that my eyes were red, and Darnell Maria on the other side was stunned. I didn't expect me to demolish him so ruthlessly. I turned my face away. The tip of my nose was sour and uncomfortable. I can't stay any longer. That's all for today's interview. The studio will then send the first draft to Darnell Maria. Then again. No, I hugged my back and almost ran away. In the afterglow, Darnell Maria sits on the couch, her figure frozen like a sculpture. After staying up for a whole week, interview 10-0 finally came out. Walking out of my bald boss office, my whole body was empty. When it was time to get off work, I grabbed my backpack and rushed out of the building. Now go back and sleep with him for 3 days and 3 nights, and no one will stop me. In the next second, a white Benz slowly stopped in front of him. Get in the car. The window rolled down, revealing Darnell Maria's scumbag face. I took a defensive step back. What do you want to do? Ever since the last time we broke up, I've been determined to draw a line with him. I, Nicola Suri, am also a principled person, and I definitely can't make threes for people. Unexpectedly, as soon as Darnell Maria opened her mouth, I couldn't resist the temptation. I have 2 tickets for the road of journalism here, and it's a waste to put them away. Do you want them? The road to journalism. My big eyes lit up all at once. That is the most desirable documentary of countless new media people. I've always wanted to see it, but unfortunately I couldn't grab a ticket. What do you want? If it's too much, I'll rush up and beat him up and snatch the ticket. Of course, just think about it. Darnell Maria pretended to think for a moment. Watch it with me. What? I suspect something is wrong with my ears. He wants to watch a movie. Why don't he find his fiancé? I lowered my eyes quickly, hiding the emotion from the bottom of my eyes, and I didn't see Darnell Maria's sunken face. Seeing that I was stunned, Darnell Maria got out of the car, grabbed my hand and pulled me up. Let it go. I was shocked. There were people coming and going at the gate. What should I do if I was seen? Don't want to go. Shall I hold you? He bent over to hug me. I panicked, and for the first time in my life, I got into the car so numbly. When Darnell Maria got into the car, she smiled at her lips and glared at her. Such a good film. I don't want to miss the chance. The car is all on, so let's just read it. I managed to convince myself, and I fastened my seatbelt with peace of mind. His eyes subconsciously looked inside the car. After getting her driver's license in college, Darnell Maria bought this dabin, and I've ridden it a few times. Paper towel boxes, masks, folding umbrellas. It's all familiar to me. Even the pendant hanging on the rearview mirror is still safe for me to buy. It's still there. I felt a pantothenic acid in my heart. I didn't think of this pendant soil before. Why do you still use it? Darnell Maria turned around and glanced deeply at me. Because I like it. This thing is teasing me, isn't it? With a pop, my face burned instantly. Darnell Maria's voice is clear and pleasant, seductive and criminal. I pinched my palm to calm down and spit on it. All have fiancés and scumbag. Just a minute before the documentary was played, we entered. At the end of the day, I was still unsatisfied. Suddenly, I turned my head and found Darnell Maria sitting next to me. Fell asleep. The man lay on his side, leaning back in his seat, and his former frames were folded away, exposing the blue and black beneath his eyes. Even in his sleep, his brows are furrowed, and he can't hide his tiredness. I heard that their internal medicine department works 3 shifts a day, and the ironclad people may not be able to hold on. My heart softened, and I felt a little sorry for him inexplicably. Darnell Maria's phone rang suddenly, and the name on the screen was deeply stimulating. I smiled bitterly. Nicola Suri. Nicola Suri, put away your overflowing heart. People have fiancés, so they don't need you to feel distressed. I pushed the person up with a cold face. It's time to go. It's over. Darnell Maria slowly opened her eyes. Her blank eyes quickly regained her composure, and she got up. Let's go. I wanted to go back on my own, but Darnell Maria didn't give me a chance to refuse. I'll send you back. He shoved me into the passenger seat and fastened my seat belt. It's too late. It's not safe. When I heard the same words again, my heart trembled. Once upon a time, my girlfriends and I were out and about, And when I didn't come home at night, Darnell Maria would call. He knew that I was a coward, afraid of the dark and ghosts, and cranky, so he was always relieved to come to pick me up. As it is now, half an hour later, arrive at the downstairs of the rented house. I quickly unbuckled my seatbelt, and before my hand touched the handlebar, the back collar was lifted up. As soon as I turned my head, I saw someone in the driver's seat next door, rolling over and pressing towards me. I was so frightened that I burst into foul mouth, and put my hands on my chest vigilantly. Darnell Maria, what are you crazy about? Darnell Maria just let out a HMM, and put her right hand on my waist. I shook and nearly fell out of my seat. What does the dog man want to do? The past images uncontrollably surfaced in my mind, and I felt a little weak. Darnell Maria is very close. I could even feel the heaving of his chest, and his shallow breathing was amplified at this moment. He slowly lowered his head, and the hand that was holding my waist became harder and harder, and the thin lips seemed to be about to land. My heart trembled, and my hand raised in mid-air trembled. Smack! Darnell Maria blushed rarely. I was beaten. In the small and dim carriage, the slap print on the right side of his face was clear and dazzling. Look at what? Your hand first. I feigned composure and withdrew my trembling hand, scared not to the point, mainly excited. Oh, what's the point? Darnell Maria's deep voice spread above me, and the effect was terrifying. I'm really scared now, trying to maintain a sense of integrity on the face. Get out of the way. I'm getting out of the car. You want to run away after hitting someone. Alarm bells are ringing in my head. Unexpectedly, Darnell Maria chuckled and pinched my chin with one hand. The next second, I felt a strange touch on my lips. Someone kissed me. Darnell Maria. He kissed me. The brain crashes directly. The heart bursts in the chest. I resisted to no avail, and Darnell Maria kissed harder and harder, and her whole body was so numb that she couldn't lift up any strength. I don't know how long it took for him to let me go. A slap and a kiss. It's worth it. After speaking, he pecked me on the lips again before letting go. Darnell Maria, you stinking rascal. After realizing that I was blushing and embarrassed, I was angry and ashamed. You obviously have someone else. Why are you still provoking me? Noticing that my eyes were a little wet, I tried to keep them open. I don't want to shed tears in embarrassment. Why? Why should Darnell Maria, such a dog, humiliate people like this? Just as I was thinking about how to break people up, Darnell Maria stood up and looked at me. The low tone was full of puzzlement. Nicola Suri, what are you talking about? When did I have someone else? Oh, who? The dog man is quite good at acting. If it weren't for the photo of the two families at the engagement banquet being inadvertently seen, I would have been deceived. What brand of garbage bag do you have that can hold like this? I laughed angrily, shoved the person in front of him violently. If you are deceived once, you can't know people clearly, and if you are deceived twice, you are stupid. What kind of nonsense? Explain it to me. Just as I was about to leave, Darnell Maria grabbed my wrist and clenched her back molars. Who is the other people? I've never seen Darnell Maria look so serious. All at once, my heart was in turmoil. Don't. Is it really a misunderstanding? In a hurry, I pushed the person away and slammed into the rental building. Back in the hut, my heart was pounding, and it seemed like it was about to pop out of my throat. In my mind, Darnell Maria's burning eyes lingered. I took a deep breath, pulled out my phone, and found the photos in my favorites. It was a festive group photo of the banquet. In the photo, it is two families. Darnell Maria stood on the left in a black suit, and next to her stood a gentlewoman in a long dress. Darnell Maria's fiancé, whom I met at the door that day. On the dining table, the bright red, happy engagement on the cake is eye-catching. I got this picture from a schoolgirl who was in love with Darnell Maria. Nicola Suri, don't think of yourself too much. Seniors will play with you. You're a complete 3. Ha ha ha. The schoolgirl's resentment is mixed with a happy appearance, and I still can't forget it. The more I thought about it, the more angry I became, and I poked the dog man on the screen with my finger. Nicola Suri, some mistakes are enough to make once. Nicola Suri, let's go to the movies together in the evening. I found a seafood restaurant that you like and I'll pick you up after work. Walk so fast, and be careful to fall. Why are you still like a child? I'll send you here. Go up and go back to your room. Rest early. Don't stay up late. These days, Darnell Maria always finds all sorts of excuses to ask me out. Of course I'm not going. He doesn't talk about martial arts, and he actually wants to go to my leader. It me off to the point where I want to see what tricks this dogman is going to play. But, unexpectedly, Darnell Maria behaved peacefully. Eating is eating. Watching a movie is watching a movie. And even on the way home, I have to be a gentleman. The uncontrollable kiss that day seemed to be an accident. The strange relationship lasted on and off for more than half a month. I lost 5 pounds straight. Looking at the little belly in the mirror, I was sad. Why didn't it grow where it should be? When I turned my head, I looked for a bald boss, asked for tiring work on the location, and lost weight by the way. Unexpectedly, he fell directly on the first scene of the interview. When I opened my eyes again, it was Snow White. Am I going to heaven when I'm dead? I trembled and regretted it in my heart. God, you can't be so cruel to me. I'm only 24, and my good years have just begun, and I have just tasted the taste of a handsome guy. It's Darnell Maria's scumbag. It's a big loss. Just as I was crying, the voice of a scumbag came from above me. Nicola Suri, it seems that you have been wronged by me in the past. Tell me, you think, sleep, who? Good news, I didn't. After fainting, he was rushed to the hospital by a well-wisher. The bad news, the doctor in the emergency room is Darnell Maria again. He also discovered my long-hidden secret. Faced with Simone's frighteningly cold eyes, I decided to strike first. Woo-woo, I passed out and was hospitalized. And you still scolded me for? Darnell Maria, you're not human. I cried so much that I was fully engaged. Snot and tears blurred his face. Darnell Maria seemed to be startled by my reaction, froze for a moment, and then raised her hand to take me in her arms. I unceremoniously pulled his white coat and wiped my face. The pectoralis major muscle stiffened for a moment. Nicola Suri, what are you doing? You're still murdering me. Hiccup. I don't know if it's because of my physical discomfort and fragility. I cried so much that tears flowed. Completely can't stop. Seeing this, Darnell Maria instantly shut up and patted me on the back to coax me. When he coaxed, I cried, and the more he coaxed, the more I cried. In the end, he didn't have a rut, bowed his head, and apologized to me over and over again. Crying and crying, I felt my body feel weaker and weaker, and I shuddered, and asked, Darnell Maria, am I terminally ill? Otherwise, my delicate jade hands would tremble like chicken paws. Darnell Maria's eyes stopped at me and paused. You're just too hungry. Low blood sugar plus heat stroke. Fainting. Nicola Suri, didn't you have breakfast today? It's been discovered. Before I broke up with Darnell Maria, I was punished several times by him for not liking breakfast. Now facing the scrutinizing eyes, my heart beats 118. I'm so hungry now. I can't hear what you're talking about. I had to get back under the covers. Darnell Maria glared at me, shoved an apple into my arms, and left the room. I pouted. Man, what a cold-blooded animal. Just as I was about to swallow the apple core in my mouth, Darnell Maria came in again. He still has a hot meal in his hand. Smelling the fragrant smell, I couldn't help but swallow my saliva, and after tasting it, I realized that something was wrong. It's so familiar. You did that. Do you remember my taste so well? The man raised his eyebrows proudly, and his voice was low. This is the lunchbox I brought from home, and it's cheap for you. Unlike my three-legged cat, Darnell Maria is a true cook. When we used to live together, he basically cooked and fed them. Thinking of those fairy days, I couldn't hold back my tears. Bury your head in the bowl, turn your grief into strength, and if you're not careful, you'll eat too much. Nicola Suri, one day you're going to die of hunger. I collapsed on the bed and let Darnell Maria nag and massage her round belly, and let out a pleasant little purr. Don't listen or don't listen. Wang Ba recites the scriptures. At this moment, there was a sudden knock on the door of the ward, and a person walked in. The other party was also wearing a white coat. I quickly rolled under the covers and pretended to be asleep. Darnell Maria, it's shift time. Leave it to me. I narrowed my eyes into a slit, and out of the corner of my eye, I saw the strange doctor talking to Darnell Maria. By the way, There is a social event in the hospital in the evening. Do you want me to sign you up? I could clearly see Darnell Maria frowning. Thanks. No. Well, if I knew you weren't going, those little girls would be sad. I'm going. Some people are going to cry. Darnell Maria's words mean something. The man's eyes lit up suddenly. Is there a situation? Is there a little girl you like? Darnell Maria's succinct words made my heart pound. Tell me, what does it look like? Yes, I looked at Darnell Maria, and her eyes fell on me. Long hair, big eyes, like food, study journalism. Can be a good journalist? The corners of the man's lips curled slightly. Smack. My heart, blown up into fireworks. The deer in the heart is on a rampage. I was stunned. I was stupid. I'm numb. Darnell Maria, what is this doing? Confess to me. I opened my mouth slightly and my eyes were unfocused. When I came back to my senses, there were only two people left in the room. Me and Darnell Maria. You. What do you mean by what you just said? I looked at Darnell Maria intently, and my heart was in a mess. Nicola Suri, how come I didn't notice you were such a dull person? The man sighed, smiling helplessly and a little doting. I like you. Is it a fact that you can't be believed? Like me. Darnell Maria says she likes me. Euphoria, doubt, uneasiness, countless complicated emotions came flooding up, and I bit my lip, not knowing what to do. You don't believe it? Darnell Maria bent down and rested her forehead affectionately on my forehead. I was obsessed, and the photo of the engagement banquet lingered. I've got a question, and I've been holding it in my mind for a long time. Darnell Maria got up and pressed down, staring at me deeply. That time I was on a business trip, and you suddenly broke up on the way and blocked me. Why? The man looked as if he was trying his best to endure it, and his expression was a little hurt. More than half a year ago, as graduation season approached, there was news of a breakup all around. At that time, Darnell Maria and I also had a lot of conflicts. He went on a business trip, I looked for work everywhere, and the two of us were in a cold war. During this period, I suddenly saw the engagement photo, and my long suppressed emotions exploded, and I broke up and disappeared. I was stunned at first, and then I didn't react right. It's Darnell Maria who made the mistake. Why do you think I'm giving up? And it's not because you're outside. As soon as the question blurted out began, the communicator on Darnell Maria's chest suddenly rang. Good. Come right now. The man hung up the phone, his face becoming serious. Something happened in the emergency room. I need to go and see. Lie on the hospital bed, and don't leave. When we get back, we'll continue to talk about it. Before leaving, he kissed me so hard that my face was flushed. After lying down and sleeping in a daze, I was awakened by the urge to urinate. Feeling bored, I walked out of the bathroom refreshed. Just wandering around the hospital corridor, unexpectedly, I saw Darnell Maria's fiancé, hiding in the corner. I gritted my teeth in grief. Mac, it's Darnell Maria's dog man again. Just when I was scolding and cursing, I saw that the fiancé lady suddenly hugged the person next to her, and she was excited, and she hugged someone directly and kissed her. Depend on. I was dumbfounded again, although the person had his back to him, and couldn't see his face clearly. He had short hair. Man. I returned to the hospital room in a trance, and in a daze, I waited for Darnell Maria, who had arrived in a hurry. Looking at the surgical cap on his head, I couldn't hold back. The top of your head is so green. A dog has his day. This time it was Darnell Maria's turn to be green. I looked at him with pity in my eyes. If you want to open up, life is still very good. Nicola Suri, what's the mess in your head? The corners of Darnell Maria's mouth twitched, and when she touched my hand, her face changed instantly. Why are your hands so cold? No. In order to eavesdrop on the corner of the wall, the cool breeze blew for 10 minutes. When will it be a little more worry-free? He picked up my face, pecked it lightly, and, suddenly a princess hugged me, and sent me to bed. The dead fawn in its chest began to bounce again. After settling me into the bed, Darnell Maria sat down on the edge of the bed. The big hand was on my waist, and didn't let go. Looking at the miserable face in the distance, I swallowed. Why are you so close to me? Continuing what didn't end. Of course, Darnell Maria gently brushed the shredded hair from her face. The smiling look reminded me of the hot kiss I had before, not to mention the beautiful scenery that looms under the loose neckline. I tried to suppress my screams, but my eyes couldn't help but look at them. I guess no one knows better than me how hard Darnell Maria's 8 sturdy and shapely abs are under her seemingly slender body. Still satisfied. Suddenly, a man's low voice came from overhead. Looking up at the man's dark eyes, I whispered, "Satisfied, satisfied." Darnell Maria chuckled, leaned in, and touched me with the tip of her nose. "Would you like to reach out and feel it? Is it okay?" My legs began to go limp, and then my lips were sealed by hot kisses. The delicate and dense kiss gradually conquered the city. Surrender, can't resist, flee. I don't know how long it took for Darnell Maria to stop, and I was already trembling. You bastard. Well, just for you assholes." Darnell Maria took my finger and pecked it lightly. The hot temperature on the face can be used to fry the eggs raw. At that moment, there was a knock on the door. "Darnell Maria, you're in there, aren't you?" The familiar sound makes my scalp tingle. Fiancé. Caught by the traitor. I panicked, looked at someone close at hand, and trembled and pushed. Bang! Darnell Maria squatted on the ground, a look of disbelief running across her handsome face. Squeak! The ward was pushed open from the outside, and his fiancée walked in. She was taken aback when she saw Darnell Maria's somewhat messy appearance. "What's wrong with you, Moira Vote?" "It's okay, I accidentally fell." I could clearly see the smile on Darnell Maria's lips, and my heart was sour. Dog man. Such an adult can still fall. If you want me to say, I have been a doctor for a long time, and lack of exercise. Before it was over, after his fiancée entered the house, another man walked in. Seeing the other person's iconic short hair, I was stupid on the spot. This is not the short-haired man who kissed just now. Dare to bring the adulterer to the main owner. This fiancé's young lady has too much fun. After staring at it twice, I thought it was a little weird. How does this adulterer look? Sound familiar? Unexpectedly, Darnell Maria dropped a bomb on me. He pointed to the short-haired man. "Nicola Suri, this is my brother." Then, he gestured to his fiancée. "This is my brother's fiancée. You can just call her Moira Vote." Brother, fiancée. I was stupid. It was also at this time that I found out that the so-called short-haired man actually had the same face as Darnell Maria's brother in the photo. The so-called photo is an engagement photo of Darnell Maria's brother and her own fiancé, not with Darnell Maria. Nicola Suri, was tricked into making a big joke? The limited brain capacity can't hold too much explosive information. Under the surprised eyes of everyone, I rolled my eyes, and I fainted on the spot. Before he fell unconscious, a thought kept echoing in his mind. Such a horse oolong must not let Darnell Maria know. When I woke up, I blinked blankly and found myself in Darnell Maria's bedroom. Once again, the message before the coma slowly took over the brain. The small body trembled. No, Darnell Maria must not be made aware of this. Is there anything I can't know? My back stiffened, and I turned my head to see Darnell Maria looking at me faintly. The mobile phone screen held in the palm of the hand is playing the high-definition uncensored engagement photo. I swallowed my throat. You listened to my quibbles? Was caught, and the excuses were too late to make up. Staring into the man's eyes, I came to a conclusion. Darnell Maria must have known it, so when we broke up, we misunderstood that I had a fiancé and were engaged to someone else. Darnell Maria got up and approached step by step, and I squirmed desperately on the bed, but I couldn't escape. When I found that there was no way, I simply left it in place. Yes, how is it? Why don't you believe me? Darnell Maria looked at the man steadily, and her tone softened. In your eyes, I'm the one who peddles two boats. It's all because you're so good. I pouted, and tears of grievance fell. Do you know how many girls in college like you? Every year, I secretly receive dozens of love letters. You're a doctor now, and there are people who want to be your matchmaker, and I'm afraid of meeting so many young nurses every day. Crying and crying, Darnell Maria took me in her arms, and her numb voice made me soften. Fool, I only like you. Really? I asked, blinking my wet eyes. Really? He patiently repeated it again. I sniffed and said, well, then I apologize to you. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have been suspicious of your. Darnell, Maria said in a quiet tone. Sorry. And then, I rubbed my red and swollen eyes. And then I realized that I was being held in Darnell Maria's arms. The man lowered his head and kissed my earlobe. Nicola Suri, I'm here to ask for an apology. The hoarse voice sounded weak, and I struggled a little harder, but finally I was overwhelmed by the heat. In the middle of the night, I suddenly woke up to Darnell Maria's sleeping face. He hugged me with his big hands, and the corners of his lips hooked slightly. The side face is as handsome as it was when I first saw it many years ago. I stared for a long time, then buried my head in Darnell Maria's neck. Fortunately, the star that belongs to me finally came to me. The end.